So building an amazing life is not this straight line linear thing. It's gonna require trying things, making adjustments. It's gonna be this whole zigzag pattern to get where you wanna go. I'm Coach Bobby Brown. I'm with Sober Life Right. What I do is I help people live their most amazing lives free from drugs and alcohol. I do that a couple of ways, through one-on-one coaching, hopefully through these videos, and I've been going through the book, The Success Principles by Jack Canfield. This is a top 5 book for me. It's an absolute encyclopedia of all these habits, principles rather, that successful people do. Jack Canfield's just an amazing author, very, very successful in his own right. If you have not read the book, I've got my dog-eared copy right here. I am an Amazon affiliate. There'll be a link in the description, so please click on it, buy it. I'll make a small commission. But regardless, just get the book and check it out. If you're looking at your life and there's things that you want to do, like, this is a great place to start. So today's chapter, we're on principle number 19. It's use feedback to your advantage. And this is all about taking information and making adjustments. Jack goes through a couple of different things in this chapter. He talks about how there's different types of feedback. There's that positive feedback, whether that's something as straightforward as somebody telling you, hey, yeah, you're doing a good job, to could be results, hey, you get a bonus check. Hey, you had an amazing date with a girl. But then your negative feedback a lot of times can tell you just as much about where you're going, A lot of times I am a man in long-term recovery. What that means for me is that today I live an amazing life free from drugs and alcohol. It's been that way since July 22nd, 2021. That is not when I started my road to recovery. I started my recovery going all the way back to September 19th, 2014, the day after my 40th birthday. That's the first time that I decided that, well, maybe I should do something about my drinking, at least slow it down. A lot has happened over the last decade, a lot of highs, a lot of lows. Life has given me a whole lot of feedback for me to make adjustments and figure out the recipe or the plan or the blueprint that works for me, so that today I'm not only do I not have, I don't use drugs and alcohol. I don't think about using drugs and alcohol. I'm pretty much at a point where the thought of using drugs and alcohol, is insane. Holds no, there's no illusion of it being something that I need or want in my life. I am living a life that I love. I wake up most days extremely happy. I go to bed happy. I have meaningful relationships with people. I'm a part of my community. But that is as a result of making adjustments over time. It talks a little bit in the book about this game, I guess not a game, this exercise he does in some of his seminars, where he'll have somebody stand on one side of the room, and then he'll start walking towards them. He'll tell them, as long as I'm walking towards you, say on course. Anytime I veer off, just say off course until I'm back on course. And so he takes a couple of steps, and it's on course, and then he steps off, and it's back off course. So keep doing this. It's basically zigzags across the room until he eventually gets to the person. And then he points out, he asks the question, what was said more? Were you on course or off course? And he says almost always off course. And I think that's a real good way of demonstrating, I can go through life and I can think that I think I'm not reaching my goals. I'm not where I'm supposed to be. But as long as I keep moving, and as long as I'm willing to keep making adjustments, then I'm probably going to get where I need to. I'll tie this into sobriety. It is I see this a lot working with others, and I've been recovery coaching for the last 3 years. During that time, I've coached probably 1,000 men and women in various stages, most of it early recovery, and watching some of the mistakes that are made along the way. It usually starts with some sort of decision that, hey, well, circumstances at least have dictated that they can't use drugs and alcohol. I worked in a court for a long time, and in order for them to stay legal and stay out of jail, they had to not use drugs and alcohol. And so I usually start with just like a decision, well, I'm not going to, but then something would happen and suddenly they found that they did use. So then it was a matter of, okay, figuring out, well, okay, how severe is this? Is this something that needs treatment? Is this something that we just need to look at your life? And that's part of what, as a recovery coach, I did, is I helped people kind of identify where they were at, where they needed to be. I helped them with resources to get there, try to provide some encouragement and some hope along the way, show them it was possible. And then I think one of the big benefits is just being a truth teller, being able to have somebody that had been there, knew what it was like, to tell them when the things they were doing did not make sense. If you're trying to live a sober life, it's probably not a good idea to hang out at bars or to date the girl that's actively using, or guy, and something that may seem so obvious, like when somebody's in the middle of it, like it might not be, or people in their circle may not either have the courage to tell them, the knowledge to tell them, like even just the thought to care them. You can have people that love you very much and care about you very much, but they just don't know what to say. They know what you're doing is hurting you, but they're not sure the right answers. And that's something as a coach I was able to do, I'm still able to do, is I think one of the big benefits is having somebody that is bought into your life and bought into the things you're working for, that's willing to like call you out on your crap and tell you, hey, that's probably not doing it. If you want to get a new job, you probably should be putting your resume out, or talking to somebody, or applying for jobs. As long as you're not doing that, you're probably not going to get the job. So that's covered in the book. Another thing, he talks about some of the reasons why, some of the ways that we can respond to feedback and what's helpful and what's not. He touched on like three key things, ways that people respond to feedback that just absolutely is not helpful at all. They either just take the feedback and they let it beat them down and they just quit. It's whine, say it's too hard, I can't do this anymore, and they just stop. If you just stop, you're never going to hit your goals. Or they'll get angry at the person giving the feedback. Well, anger is just an emotion, but there's a lot of very unproductive ways that we can let it affect our behavior that are definitely not helpful. They're not going to help us get towards our goals. We can lash out at somebody that gave us some criticism that could have really helped us. Odds are that person's not going to continue to give us valuable information that could help us to get better. And then just ignoring it. I know it all. I've got all the answers. I'm guilty of this one a lot. I can get very rigid, and I can have my idea if I'm not intentional. And I say I'm rigid about it. Like I'm not as much at all anymore, because I've practiced this for a long period of time now. I've gotten to a point in my life where I will actively seek out criticism. And I have built a mindset that criticism is something that is designed to help me. And that's kind of what this book's all about. The more you are willing to take a look at what's working and what's not working, the more likely you are to be successful. And so I believe the quicker that we can learn this, like I'm a big believer, part of my thing on coaching is like, yes, we're going to set goals, and yes, we're going to work towards things, but I am a big believer that like certain types of people with certain habits get certain types of results. And what's a lot more important than just figuring out the steps to get towards your goals is figuring out, okay, well, what am I lacking as a person that is preventing me from being the kind of person that's going to get those goals? Is it, what are my values like? What are my mindsets? How am I looking at and interacting to life? What skills do I lack? Am I self-disciplined? Do I have self-control? Do I have self-trust? And by looking at those things first and establishing, okay, well, if my goal is to help people live an amazing life free from drugs and alcohol, I have to look at what kind of person gets to live an amazing life free from drugs and alcohol. And they've got some pretty common traits. And I'm also a big believer that skills can be developed, and that there's a process to develop skills. And that's something as a coach I can help people with. So there's more in the book. I definitely can't cover it in 10 to 15 minutes, but please check it out. Read the book in depth. If you like these videos, please ring the bell, subscribe for me. Please like these videos, comments. And if you are someone that knows, like, you're sober, you're not living your most amazing life, but you're doing things, and you think that it might be valuable to have a coach in your corner that's dedicated to you to help you with honest feedback, able to give you just a system-based approach to figure out where you're at, where you want to be, come up with plans that make sense to get there, focus on accountability and building the right habits and becoming the kind of person that gets to live an amazing life. And then you've got the motivation to do it quickly. It shouldn't take you years and years and years to develop habits and to develop into the kind of person that's getting the things that you want, that's getting the things that you need. If that's you and you'd like to talk, then just comment coach, and I will reach out to you and we'll talk a little bit and we'll see if it's a fit. So thanks again for watching these, and buy the book, and have a wonderful day.